everybody, welcome to episode 85 of the Masterclass. My name is Cam Brennan, and I'm joined yet again by Mr. David Hogue. How are you?
Awesome.
Is everything awesome?
It is awesome.
Are you part of a team?
Part of a team?
Everything is awesome when you're part of a team.
I'm not familiar.
Have you ever seen a Lego movie?
No, I have not.
Oh, well, that would explain why I had to carry that tune. Thanks for joining in there, man.
Yeah, anytime.
So, as we were preparing for this show, dear listeners, Dave dropped a bomb on me. We've been doing this show for 2 years and 2 days as of this recording, which I totally forgot that we started at January 1st of 2015. So this is officially not only the first show of 2017, but the first show of our third year as a podcast, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
Because I think when we started this, I don't know what you thought. I frankly don't remember what I thought. But being here, 85 episodes in, 2 years and a few days in, maybe in the back of my mind, I thought we'd get this. I didn't really know what to expect, but I mean, here we are.
That's like 80. I mean, that's at least 85 hours.
At least
that we've roughly 80 hours, 80 something. So like we've talked for like 3 days straight.
Yeah, what's that?
48
hours is 2 days. 72 is 3 days.
So 3.5 days.
Yeah, a little over 3.5 days. Listener, we have a challenge. Listen to every episode. Back to back to back to back. If you can do it straight without sleeping, I will buy you a bag of Cheetos.
Excellent.
I feel like that's a worthy prize for such an endeavor. Not that anyone has anything better to do with their time than to go listen back to some of the first episodes, which sounded terrible. Those were really bad audio, but we didn't know what we were doing.
There's a couple of other podcasts I listen to that
terrible
terrible audio. So yeah. Content, sound, It
was opposite for us, Dave.
Oh, okay.
It was really good content, really crappy sound. Now we've got, I think we have good content.
Maybe.
I think for certain people.
Yes.
I think some people probably won't enjoy our sultry radio voices. But anyways, all joking aside, especially about the sultry radio voices for me, I know Dave has one. I'm just trying to live up to his standard. It is really cool to think that we've been doing this for over 2 years now, and that this has become something regular in our lives, and something that I look forward to, and I think something that has become a very integral part of my life. And I'm very happy that we have this, and that I get to do it with you. And I'm always grateful that your family lets me crash your house once a week and kind of turn the AC off in the summer, turn the heat off in the winter. They suffer while we get to chat, but they're good sports about it. So I really do appreciate all the hospitality and love from your family.
I did forget to turn the heat on not that long ago.
Oh no! How cold did it get?
58.
Yeah, that'll wake you up.
And we have a heat pump, and the heat pump does not heat when it's like 15 degrees out, and it was one of those really cold nights.
Oh, geez.
And it got cold, so we have a third switch on ours, which is like emergency heat, which is like a normal furnace.
Yeah.
And actually, I think ours is like an electric furnace, so the electric bill.
Oh no.
Oh no, not. But it's just funny because I was like, there's such a difference between. Like when you go to our register on the heat pump, it doesn't feel like there's warm air coming out of it. It just feels like the temperature of the room.
Uh-huh.
But when you crank it over to the emergency heat,
it's lava.
It's like hot. Yes, it's
liquid hot magma.
It did not take long for it to get back up to.
Well,
but I was also very impressed that our house was still at 58 on a very cold night. So
Yes. I would, yeah. Well, so we're here. And I do want to say that this episode is brought to you not by some ad, not by some corporation, but by two really cool people, Wilby Hogue and Katie Brennan. Between the two of them, they have covered all of our hosting needs for this month.
Woohoo!
Because they support us on Patreon. And I just wanted to give them a special shout out because they are our newish supporters on Patreon. And no joke, between the two of them, they cover our hosting costs for this month. And I think that's super cool that there are people out there, even though they're related to us. I think that's even more impressive that they are related to us and they still wanted to support us. So thank you to Wilby and thank you to Katie for bringing this episode to all of our listeners at zero cost to us. So, dear listener, if you're listening, make sure to give Katie or Wilby a shout out, even if it's just to your office. Just stand up and scream, Katie and Wilby paid for the podcast that I'm listening to while I work. Probably don't do that. Although if you did, you should record it and put it on Instagram so we can add it to the show notes next week. So last episode, we talked about the end times, the apocalypse, the coming of Jesus once again. And I feel like we're going to be talking about that for a while based on what is coming up in the rest of Matthew 24 and 25.
Yes.
So, do you have anything to add before we read the scripture about this conversation, what we talked about last week? You want to wax poetic about your history, you know?
I have come to the conclusion, and this is a bit of a cop-out, but I've decided that and hopefully this will change over our next few weeks, but the way I viewed the end times is nobody got it right the first time. So why do we think we're going to get it right this time?
The first time? I would like the first 1,000 times.
Well, I mean, like when Jesus came the first time, they're like, did they really know that he was going to come as a baby in a manger? I know you can look at the Old Testament prophets and you can point to things. It's like, oh, this is what he's talking about here.
Oh yeah, but hindsight's 2020.
But I genuinely believe that those prophets were not thinking Jesus is the Messiah is going to come as a helpless little baby. And so I'm half joking and I'm half sincere when I say this I'm just like, God has such an infinite way of doing things that to me it seems like a bit arrogant to think that, oh, well, we know how it's going to happen next time.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's not worth studying, because if Jesus talked about it, clearly it's important.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And I think if you listen to our last episode, you'll hear me make a few bold statements about having a written down, set in stone view of the end times. In today's point, I think it is worth studying and worth trying to understand what the Bible says about it. But I think that there is a fascination and a preoccupation with the end times that a lot of Christians of certain denominational affiliations embrace that I would caution against. If I can be fair and vague and generic until we actually get into the discussion. But also, if you listen to the last episode, you'll pretty much know where I stand on a lot of that. So, yeah, definitely worth studying, which is why we are spending a few episodes working through these passages. But again, I think you'll find that Dave and I have opinions on this stuff.
Yes.
Not shockingly. And they may disagree with what you or other people believe. And guess what? That's totally cool. This is about having a discussion. And Dave and I both know that we may not be right. And we've said this time and time again, and I'm going to say it again. If you disagree, or even if you do agree, write in and let us know, because it's really easy to have a conversation in a vacuum where other points of view, other experiences, other knowledge are not a part of it. And so we invite you guys as listeners to contribute to the discussion, and let us know why you agree or disagree with us, because that's one of the ways that we can learn from each other, is by sharing our thoughts, our opinions, our experiences, and our knowledge with each other. So if you want to do that, you can email us hello@supermegacorp.net and just go ahead and put end times or masterclass or happy 2-year anniversary masterclass in the subject line, just so I know, to make sure that Dave gets the email, because I don't think you ever check that email, do you?
No, I do not.
Yeah. Well, I'll forward it to you. Or you can yell at us on Twitter. I'm at Cam Brennan, CAMBRENNAN. Dave's at 108HBO, unless you've changed it since last
No, I did
episode,
not.
which you teased us with.
I have not.
Okay. Hey, where can they find the show notes, Dave?
Where can they find the show notes? Oh, you're going to throw me on the spot again.
Come on, man. 2 years. We should be professionals.
I'm truly like in panic mode of.
All right. It starts with S.
www.supermegacorp.net/masterclass/85.
So good. I was gonna say it starts with S and ends in ubermegacorp.net/masterclass/85, but you did so well.
I know it.
I'm so proud of you, Dave.
Just takes me a little bit.
Indeed. Should we be more excited? I feel like we're a little somber this episode. Just reflecting on all the good times.
Yes. I realized that about this time last year, we were on episode 50. Because of the episode L was Super Bowl L.
Was it?
And so I'm like, I feel like we didn't quite do maybe as many episodes in.
Are you saying we're getting lazy, Dave? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying you had a child.
Okay. Well, let's just fact check here, Dave. We are true professional journalists. No,
no fake news here.
Well, hopefully not fake news. We are talking about Jesus. Let's hope that's real. Episode L was February 17th.
Oh, so that's okay.
So as of our first episode of 2016 was January 6th, and it was episode 44.
Mm-hmm.
So we did 44 the first year, 40 even the second year.
Okay.
So that's the first year. That's 11 weeks off. The second year, that's 14 weeks. Man, that's a lot of vacation. You've got a nice boss, Dave.
I've got.
Wait, no, I can't even do my math. 52 weeks in a year. Yeah, so 11 and 14. Yeah, I'm right. No, 11 and 12. No. Oh, sorry. Seriously, my sleep has been so deprived.
The only thing I've realized
we took 9 weeks off the first year, and then we took 12 weeks off this year.
Got you.
Which is essentially 2 every 3 months. That's not bad.
I'm fairly certain I was more consistent with showing up for this than I was about going to church. I don't think I went to church 44 times or 40 times.
Shh, no one's going to take us seriously if you say that.
I know. It was close, though.
Oh, boy. All right. So, yes, we were somewhat close to being even. But hey, it's the first Tuesday of this year, so we're 1 for 1.
Yeah.
Got that going for us. We're batting 1,000 right now. Indeed. You know what we're going to hit this year?
100.
Episode 100. And so we're 15 weeks away from episode 100. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I feel like we should do something super cool for episode 100.
Absolutely.
That'll put us in like the end of March, beginning of April range if we don't miss one. So probably somewhere in April. So the weather will be decent. If you have ideas for what we should do for episode 100. Let us know if you want us to reach out to someone super cool.
That would be fun.
I've got 15 weeks to con them into coming onto our podcast. Or if we should go record somewhere odd. We live in Kansas City, so we can't, go to the beach. But we've got 15 weeks to come up with something really cool to do for episode 100.
Sounds good.
If you have any ideas, it doesn't have to be someone. Maybe we go do something weird like feed homeless people. And by weird, I mean totally what the Bible tells us to do and just not a normal podcast. That's what I meant by weird. Not by don't do it, it's weird, but it's not a normal podcast weird. Anyways, I've rambled enough. You know how to get in contact. Do so, because you guys are going to have some cool ideas, and Dave and I will decide what we want to do. But I feel like we should. Why not? You only hit 100 once.
Absolutely.
All right. Would you read the Bible for us, please?
Yes. So we're at Matthew 24, and we're going to read verses 9 through 14, which I think we read but didn't get to last week. Then they will deliver up to Oh boy. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another. And many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. And because lawlessness will increase, the love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come.
All right. Maybe that's why we're somber.
The end.
Yeah, it's just not a very exciting text. It's not like when Lazarus comes out of the tomb and it's like, and everyone's having a party.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just got a picture of Jesus at a rave in my head, and it's pretty awesome. Anyways, I always ruin things with dumb jokes, Dave. I'm sorry.
No, it's good.
Our listeners should be used to it at this point. But, all right, so tribulation, that's a catchphrase, right?
Could be.
Because when we talk about people's views on the end times, there is this whole argument on, will Christians be in the tribulation? Will God remove them and let the non-believers go through the tribulation? Does he come midway through the tribulation? What is the tribulation? It sounds like a really bad movie. The Tribulation, like a really bad, I don't know, horror movie. But I guess I want to know what your thoughts are about what the tribulation is, and then maybe we can discuss why it has become such it's right up there with the millennium in, apocalyptic worldviews. Are we post-millennium, pre-millennium? There is no millennium, the tribulation is all wrapped up in that sort of stuff.
Well, I am of the opinion that we are living in the tribulation.
Oh, really?
I am. And that basically there are people already right now in China, in Syria, in places around the world where if they choose to follow Christ, it could mean their life, it could mean their job, it could mean their family, it could mean the loss of everything important and dear to them. And just because we live in affluent America, and I get that not everybody in this country is affluent, and not everybody that there is poor in this country, but I believe the tribulation is going on as we speak, and I'm of the opinion that it is sort of the time between the Jesus' first coming and his second coming. It is just the tribulation of the nature of living life in a sinful, fallen world, and it's going to be worse for some than it is for others.
So if I could quote the Princess Bride, life is pain, Highness.
Yes.
I feel like growing up in the church, I was never taught that life is pain.
Mm-mm.
That Christianity has a lot more to do with suffering than it does with, or a lot more to do with suffering and sacrifice than it has to do with affluence and
Being blessed.
But see, even that term's like,
Yeah,
we think
exactly.
being blessed is having an abundance
Material.
of material stuff, when in reality, being blessed is having the joy in the presence of God regardless of your circumstances. That's what being blessed is. And oftentimes a blessing to us is an abundance of food or an abundance of, Thanksgiving. Oh, thank you for the blessing of this bountiful meal. Like, bountiful is such an appropriate word that I would associate with the Christianity I was taught as a kid.
Mm.
Because God is, the Holy Spirit is this well gushing up inside of me, and my cup overfloweth with joy. And by joy, I mean cars and big houses, and
And being happy.
yeah. And you quickly, and I feel like we hit on this way more than we should because I think it's BS. But you get into the, oh, I'm so angry I can't even remember what it's called. Prosperity gospel, and I feel like in my Now, see, I don't want to be hard. I don't want to bash. I want to be helpful and uplifting, Dave. That's what I want. But this idea that our relationship with Jesus is, a lot of people like to quote, as iron sharpens other iron, so, a man sharpens another man, or, it's like this, like, kind of this, like, heartwarming, like, ooh, yay, iron. Like, have you seen what it takes to make a sword? They shove it in this raging hot inferno, and they beat the crap out of it with a hammer, and then they shove it back in the raging inferno, and then they beat the crap out of it, and they shove it in freezing water, and they shove it back in the raging. That does not sound heartwarming or fun or enjoyable.
Yeah.
But in the end, you have this purified, if it's done correctly, all of the impurities have been burned away. It has been beaten into the correct shape, and it has been cauterized or frozen, essentially, into keeping that shape that was worked so hard for. And when I hear iron sharpens iron, so one man, sharpen, that sounds terrifying to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather be like, as one teddy bear cuddles another teddy bear. That is how life really is. And so we get to this tribulation thing, and it says, they will deliver you up to the tribulation and put you to death, and you'll be hated by all the nations for my name's sake. And then many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another, and many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. So there's all this deception and this hatred and this anger and this enmity. And I feel like this is way more descriptive, as you said, of the world we live in. 2016 was the worst year ever, Dave. Read a history book. But anyways, I don't know, because here's the other thing too, is like you said, we're living in the tribulation. And that is like the big, like the tribulation and the millennium.
Yeah, exactly.
Are these things that have taken on, and a lot of it has to do with Revelation, and we're not really handling that here because we're focusing on Matthew. And if we were responsible podcasters, we would have read and come prepared with what Revelation has to say about this, but we didn't do that this time.
No, and honestly, I will say this is that we are going to be discussing this for a while. I mean, if we truly, I don't think we'll do what we did last week and this week in terms of only getting through 14 verses, but both Matthew 24 and 25 really deal with the end times and what's going to happen. So we'll have to pick up the slack for next week. Because honestly, I mean, I did spend some time in this, and it was like I got to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much, which you know, um, and this is where I guess I said at the beginning, sort of joking, sort of true. Why do we think we're going to get it right this time and we didn't the first time? But I feel like I need to sort of land at a personal of, because I haven't really ever done this, of what does this mean about my relationship with Jesus, sort of a thing.
Well, and that's my question is my understanding of the end times, or sorry, does my understanding of the end times mean that I live or act differently than I would if it wasn't?
And the answer should be no.
And that's my point.
And I completely agree.
Is that it shouldn't matter if the end times are coming in the next 50 years or they're coming in the next 50 centuries. If I believe what the Bible says is true about everything, then the way I live my life should not be determined by how soon Jesus is coming back. That being said, I've got a lot of work to do in the way that I live my life, in the way that I choose to spend my time, in the way that I choose to treat people and talk to people, and the things that I choose to think about, and the things that I choose to spend my money on. And that is all part of my spiritual formation and my relationship with Christ and what the Holy Spirit is doing in me and to me through those around me. But what I don't understand about a lot of, and I think this is truly just a lack of understanding on my part, and most likely not other people being wrong, and more just a naivete or ignorance on my part about why other people think this is so important. Because I don't understand how, regardless of if I'm, what eschatological viewpoint I cling to, how that affects the way that I should live my life. Because I don't think it should. Because it has nothing to do with sharing the gospel, loving my neighbor more than I love myself, sacrificing for my wife, things that I need to work on, but not because Jesus is coming tomorrow, but because Jesus has called me to do those things regardless of when he's coming. That's never like, okay, only husbands, only love your wives. I love the church for like the last 2 years before I come. Up to then, treat them like crap. Like, no, he calls us to a certain standard, and it's not at all tied to when the end times come. And I think for me, that gets to the crux of why I think it's, and I will back off some of my words from last week because I don't want to be mean just to be mean. That's why I don't really care when they come or what viewpoint I should or shouldn't have about the end times, because I don't think it matters. I think it's important to study to know what Jesus said. And because it reminds us that we are going to go through tribulation. We're going to go through pain. And as you said, some far more than others. I don't live in China. I don't live in Syria. I don't live in Northern Africa, where I'm being physically persecuted for following Jesus. I live in a place where I'm considered intellectually less than because I need the crutch of Jesus to be smart. And I don't believe in science because I'm a Christian. And, and I can deal with that crap because you can just laugh it off because people that say that stuff don't understand. I'm not anti-science. I am science plus.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that made sense about kind of where I land on all of this. I think it's important to study because Jesus talked about it, but it is not something to me that I look at and say, you have to be X, Y, or Z, otherwise you're not a real Christian. And so when people elevate this to, the criterion by which you were judged, that's when I take a big issue with it, because they are taking something that clearly I think is not a major issue and making it the one thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's and I don't remember if we said this last week or not, but if I die tonight or I die tomorrow, It is the end times for me.
Please don't.
And so, again, and we're going to eventually get to this, but Matthew 24:42 says, "Therefore stay awake, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming." And again, it's that sense of, I don't need to be reading the signs and, living my life the way I want to, but paying attention to what's coming. And then, like you said, towards the end, get my act together or do what I need to do to be saved. And yeah, so I don't, at this point, I don't have any, I can't, as you were saying that, I'm just thinking, what difference does it make? And I can't think of anything that it would cause me to live differently.
Yeah, because
I should probably live differently for other reasons.
and that's what I was gonna say is my gut response is like, well, you should tell more people about Jesus, but we should be doing that anyways.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be like, oh shoot, there's 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, we got to save everyone in the arena.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've been enjoying the game for the first 3.5 quarters. Now we got to, make sure everyone gets their popcorn. Like, that's not how it should be. And, if you say that we're living in the tribulation right now, I'm cool with that. Because guess what? They're going to put you to death. They're going to be hated by all the nations. Many far and away will betray you and hate you. There'll be false prophets. They're going to lead many astray. There will be lawlessness will increase. Love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. Like, that stuff all has happened, is happening, and will continue to happen up until Jesus decides. Up until God decides to send Jesus back. Because as we get to later on, Jesus doesn't know. Which is a whole nother issue to talk about. That'll probably be like a whole episode, because that statement to me has always caused some serious friction in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got no problem with you or anyone saying that we're living through the tribulation right now, because I think that's a fair thing to say. And I think what you agree with too is that shouldn't change anything. It's a statement of fact about the circumstances of life that doesn't change anything that Jesus has said or has done or has called us to do or be. And I feel like I have reiterated myself there enough.
Yeah. And the one of the things that I do hold true that I think is it is about God being glorified. And much like the Old Testament prophets leading up to Jesus, I don't think they were saying things that people were supposed to figure out and go, Jesus is going to come in 0 AD or 1 AD. When does it start? 1 AD?
Yeah, I don't think
is there a 0 AD or CE?
But they didn't even know what AD was.
That's what I mean.
Could you imagine if someone was like, little do you know, we're actually counting years down to 0, and then we're going to start over again when this cool guy shows up.
Yeah, and I think instead what it does is after the event occurs, you look back and you go, look, God was in this from the get-go. This is what it's about. It's God's story. It's his plan. It's about glorifying him. And so he says these things, in my opinion, so that on the other side, everybody goes, see? Yeah.
Foreshadowing.
We should have gotten it, but we didn't.
It's a great plot device.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's like the seatbelt in Jurassic Park. Have you seen Jurassic Park, right, Dave? Okay. So I've been watching these. I started this filmmaking course, this online, because I want to get better at making films. I have ideas, and I make vlogs, and they're okay. They're nothing special. They're okay. They're fun. I enjoy making them, but like I want to get into like actual filmmaking, because like there's documentaries I want to make. And so I started taking this course, and this guy's like, okay, first thing you got to know, Jurassic Park is the best movie ever made. You cannot disagree with me, and I'm going to reference it a bunch in this course because it's that good.
Huh.
And so he's talking about plot devices to help move a story along, or to help, involve the reader or the viewer in this case, with hints about what's going to happen. And so he's like, the line just says, the seatbelt, Jurassic Park. And I was like, the seatbelt? Like, I know what he's talking about. It's when they're in the helicopter and they're going down and he can't buckle the seatbelt, so he just ties it. two female ends of the seatbelt.
Mhm.
He finds a way to buckle himself in, even though
There's two, not a male and a female.
it's two females, but he still finds a way to secure himself. Later on in the movie, the dinosaurs start reproducing, but they shouldn't be able to because they're all female dinosaurs.
Mhm.
But nature found a way. And he was just like, oh my gosh, how did I never notice that before? Like, of course, it is a super subtle, totally non-related circumstance. And yet it tells you exactly what's going to happen at the end of the movie. And it's just like total genius. Total genius. And so you see stuff in the Old Testament that at the time, completely unrelated context to what we're going to see in the future. But the second you see the end product and then look back at Isaiah or Hosea or any of that and go, oh my gosh, they had no idea that this was going to happen. As we were saying, I think before we recorded, that he was going to be born into a manger and that he wasn't going to seek political power and he was going to do things totally differently. Like the Maccabean Revolution happened and Jesus was like, nope, not doing it that way. That's how you think I'm going to do it. And yeah, so you look at it back then and it's easy to see why they thought it was going to go this way or that way. And then he shows up and does it his way. And you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, how did we not see that before?
Yeah.
So there you go.
Or just even the whole, I mean, everything about what he did just was completely unexpected.
Yeah.
Again, I think about everything that comes to my mind. They're constantly like going, what? Explain this to us. Or, no, you can't. And he has a very much of just a, just even the thing that keeps coming to my mind is just how they viewed the Sabbath. I mean,
you can't heal anyone today. That's work.
Yeah, and it's so like he's like, you have completely missed the point. Not just
like if there was a word that was more encompassing than completely, that's the word he would choose.
Yeah.
You have unequivocally in every possible way blown it on this one.
Yeah. And again, back to my original point, I just, in my heart, I have the sense of that is what is going to happen again. I just think we are going to be blown away because I think if you asked most Christians, if you asked most Christians what the second coming is going to look like, it's Jesus on a cloud. Now, I realize that that's what Scripture says, but I just don't think part of me is this pragmatic when I talk about this, and then I'm like,
clouds can't hold people.
Well, clouds can't hold people. No, it's more there's no point on the earth where you can like everybody could see him. For him to come back on the cloud, if you're on the other side of the planet.
What if he comes back in the cloud where all the files are? Jesus is coming back through the internet. He's gonna live stream on the internet to the whole world. That's what's gonna happen.
Yes.
Or the cloud is gonna be the name of the alien ship that comes and blows the earth up.
Oh.
Did I go too far on that one?
Yeah. I was actually gonna go with a Matrix reference there and say he was oh no, I forgot what it
Did you take the wrong pill, Dave?
I did. I was about to say he's going to come back as Nemo.
Neo?
Neo.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Anyway, so there's things like that like, okay, every Christian says, well, Jesus is coming back on the cloud. And, oh, guess what? It's going to be over the United States. And so anyway, sorry. I just think...
Well, I mean, he was a white guy. So.
He was a white guy, yeah.
Name is probably Steve, really.
Jesus' real name was Steve?
If he's a white guy.
He was a white guy.
And I don't want to say Dave and offend you.
It's a pretty white guy name.
So anyways.
I don't think I do know any Black Daves. I'm sure there are Black Daves, but I don't know any Black Daves.
David Robinson, first of all.
Well, and then... Yes.
I'm going through athletes or actors. Those are the people that I remember the names of the most. David Robinson.
I'm seeing a picture of I can't Pronunciate tonight.
Pronunciate's not a word either.
Pronunciate.
Pronounce and enunciate are words.
Enunciate. I cannot enunciate.
Wow. We're swirling the bowl fast here. All right, verse 14. And this gospel of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. Okay. Sounds good to me.
And I think that's supposed to happen by 2020. The year 2020.
The TV show 2020?
The year 2020.
Oh, the year 2020.
The whole world will have had the gospel by 2020.
That's only like 3 years away.
So yeah, there is an element of, to me, this is one of those tangible things that I think is something that you can point to. The gospel of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the world, the whole world, as testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. I do think there's an element of all corners of the world will have the gospel. Now, whether that means there's a Bible translated in their language, there'll be a missionary that comes to, I don't know what that means, but I do think this is one of those tangible things of, because I think I want to say this is mentioned somewhere else, and I probably should do more preparation than I have.
Well, yeah, me too, but too bad we didn't. So, I guess, I feel like I've made my thoughts and my opinions fairly clear. What I hope I've done is not unnecessarily, that's a double negative, hold on. What I hope I've done is explain my thoughts and my views without ostracizing people for no reason other than speaking strongly.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather my opinions come across and then other people go, "Oh, you know what? He's wrong here." And tell me why. And not think that I'm being a jerk just to be a jerk. Because I don't want to be a jerk. I'm a nice guy, Dave. I'm a nice guy.
This is true.
Most of the time. How nice am I? I've been doing a podcast for 2 years with a Bears and a White Sox fan. And I have my Detroit Lions socks on right now. So, grace comes in many shapes, including socks.
Mm.
Dave's a nice guy, though, too, because he lets me in his house. So it goes both ways.
Yeah. Now, if you're a Cubs fan.
I'm married to one.
I know.
She's pretty, though, so we let it slide. And she had my kid, so, she gets a free pass for a really long time. Well, any closing thoughts? Or have we successfully landed this ship?
I think we're there. And we will continue in the weeks to come.
Yeah, next week, the Abomination of Desolation.
Woohoo!
That should be fun. Stay tuned. We'll be back. Bye.
Bye.